Hello everyone, great Tuesday to you, and I hope your day was a great one. Welcome to Zinni 62 Live for Tuesday. That's right, Tuesday, November 14th. Technically, it's about to be Wednesday, November 15th, 2017. And a lot of big news tonight, a lot more big news tonight, but I want to, before I begin, put in a plug for those of you who may find yourself with a smartphone but wondering, hey, is there a way that I can avoid having to carry around a brick to plug into a wall somewhere, right? And I highly recommend this. Pocket juice, that's right. This is pocket juice. It lasts all day long. You plug it in overnight, recharges, and it's ready to go the next day. USB connectivity here. Plug it into the wall here. Outstanding. Get it. Pocket juice is what it's called. This is the best portable power for your smartphone or tablet available today. It's convenient. It's big enough to carry, yet small enough to be compact, yet not so small that you'll lose it. I have a lot of them. This is the best. This is the best. All right, and with that, I will get to, first of all, a comment, and then your statements and posted chats for the Zinsters and new people. Welcome, everybody. T. Cooper, how you doing? Hey, Steve Macy. Hey, Crawford. Hey, everybody. Great to have everybody here. Great to have everyone fantastically here. And I want to alert you to three items of major information tonight. The first one is right on the front page of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Sheldon Adelson's publication. That's right, Mr. Adelson's publication. Now, okay, Mr. Adelson, as you know, if you've followed this whole Las Vegas Oakland Raiders saga, Mr. Adelson basically is the person that should be, or should have been, up there shoveling the ground, breaking dirt. And if his treatment had been better by the Raiders, guess what? Guess what? That would have happened. You know what's really fascinating is Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval said that Mark Davis and Mark Bourdain were two men of integrity. He said that, two men of integrity. You can shake a hand with them, and you can trust them, right? And I'm thinking as I read this, wow, did anybody bother to ask Sheldon Adelson for his point of view on that? You know, just of all the things to say, I just had to say that. And look, that issue between Mr. Davis and Mr. Adelson is completely set in stone. It's completely set in stone. You can't get rid of it. Oh, by the way, those of you who may be commenting but say you're having trouble commenting, I will let you know that you may be using a word. Try whatever word you're using differently, and in your sentence, and it'll pop up. Those of you watching this video on demand and wondering what I'm talking about, this is live stream, and I have a number of chat fans like, well, I'm not going to bother mentioning the person that's having the problem right now, but I assure you, you were not deleted by any moderator, but there's an automatic system that will take out any comment that is not deemed appropriate. So just take whatever it is you were going to write and then just alter it a bit, and you should be okay, all right? If not, I'll deal with it later. I'll help you out so that you're made whole again, but I'm sorry for whatever problems there may be in advance, okay? Now, I want to point out to you as I'm... Well, there's two things. First of all, do you realize that Las Vegas Sands and Madison Square Garden are planning a music venue for the Strip? That's right. And it's right on the front page of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. And you're saying, well, so what? Here's the so what. One of the major items of debate among those discussing the economics of the Raiders Stadium deal in Las Vegas is the ability to snare 50 big events, not weddings, big events per year, right? And that was when Las Vegas Sands and Majestic were involved in the deal, right? Okay, so here we come, all right, we now have, as of today, Las Vegas Sands announcing that they are going to develop a music venue on the Strip. What does that mean? It means they're going to take events away from the Raiders Stadium if the Raiders Stadium ever gets built. That's what it means. So that's really screwed, all right? And it's cutthroat. I mean, look, would Las Vegas Sands do that if they were still involved in the Raiders deal? Would they actually hurt themselves in that way if they had a true stake in it? No, of course not. No, of course not. As T. Cooper just wrote down, wow, less money. Not only it means less events. It means that Taylor Swift, if she ever decides to come to Las Vegas, would have to, if the stadium for the Raiders gets built, and I say big if, because I'm sorry, folks, groundbreaking was luxurious and all that, but the simple fact of the matter is, as Oakland Raider owner Mark Davis said last night, we haven't done anything yet, and they haven't. All right, so now you're going to tell me all of a sudden, that they're going to be able to scare up 50 events at the same time Las Vegas Sands is, not only Las Vegas Sands is trying to build or announcing that they were going to build their music venue, but the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority is working on its expansion of the convention center, which, if I'm not mistaken, is going to include its own new arena. There are only so many events to go around. Something will suffer. Something will suffer. So I'm telling you, if the GOP tax bill doesn't kill the Raider deal first, or its own already bad economics from the perspective of the too low hotel stadium tax, then you've got this other issue hanging out there right as well that's going to impact. You say, why is that important with respect to the Raiders deal specifically? Because it hurts the Raiders' ability to gain the events that then generate the revenue that allow it to do, among other things, pay off the Bank of America loan in a timely fashion. That's why. So, with that, I will get your comments. Eric Madison says, hey, Eric. Hey, Richard. Eric says, I think Vegas Sands knows that the stadium is a bust, and they're thinking of building a concert venue. Richard Hike says, a band that can barely sell out an arena is not playing a stadium. Stadium-level acts are few and far between. Thank you. And intelligent comment, Crawford says, sounds like Adelson really confident the tax bill will go through. Yeah, and I'm confident the tax bill is going to go through. In some way, shape, or form, look, we're going to find out in a little over 24 hours, right? That's going to break. The Barber 1974, hey, Barber, how are you? Barber says, Irwindale broke ground. How'd that go? Hey, that's a great point. In fact, you know what? I wonder how if we can reach back in our vault and read about that. T. Cooper says, less events means less money for the Raiders. Joseph Bensman says, that sounds really dumb. Yes. Ed Reed said, hey, Zen, did you see the Vegas TV reporters? They seem like they couldn't believe it all. All I heard was a lot of hurdles. Well, there are a lot of hurdles. Again, there is this, and I understand from people who aren't familiar with this idea that because you have a groundbreaking, and the groundbreaking looks like this party that all is done and all the problems have been solved and all the money has been raised, but that's not true. And I go back to how this whole groundbreaking took place. It looked like the Raiders were quite literally brought along kicking and screaming by the politicians, particularly Steve Sisolak, working in conjunction with Tommy White and Union Local 872. All right, that's what it looks like to me. So they got together and moved it. Not only that, the original Raider program was to have the stadium in southern Nevada and then the training camp in northern Nevada, right? Around Reno, right? Or in Reno, right? Well, hey, according to the same Las Vegas Review-Journal, guess what? Guess where the Raiders are snooping around for training camp land? Henderson, Nevada. Where's Henderson, Nevada located? It's located in Clark County. So, hey, you know what? Northern Nevada, tell it goodbye-bye. He ain't nothing, man. Forget it. Whoo, what a political blunder. And then not only that, you have, according to John Ralston in a tweet that I responded to, he's saying that the tweet that he put out is worth repeating because I had to respond to it. And this is what Ralston said wrote on Twitter. Excuse me. The antipathy toward the Raiders deal in northern Nevada is palpable. They don't understand why $750 million in public money went to a southern Nevada stadium. Silly rubes. Won't be mollified even if Reno training facility is built. Will be an issue in the governor's race. It's going to be a bigger issue in the governor's race when they discover that, you know what, they're not even going to get a training facility because the Raiders aren't even snooping around there for a training facility anymore. And yet that was the original idea. The Raiders are trying to buy votes. You know, Las Vegas gets the stadium, Northern Nevada gets the training camp, and we make Nevada happy. But after the Raiders got what they wanted, forget it. Now it's more about making Steve Sisolak happy and the union people within Clark County happy. Wow. I mean, wow. Wow. They are, you talk about counting your chickens before they're hatched, that's precisely what's going on here. Look, politics is about image. You know, it's funny to read the comments of people who say, well, Lynn Jessup was there. He's the president of UNLV. Yeah, but he wasn't on the stage. He wasn't shoveling the dirt. You know, he didn't have a visible presence. It was a Raiders effort, okay? And as I point out, there's only one politician that's running for anything that got up there to shovel, and that was Steve Sisolak. Brian Sandoval, he's not running for anything else. The mayor of Las Vegas, she's not running. She's cool. She's not running for re-election. So, and, you know, her legacy is intact. All right? Everyone else up there, great Commissioner Goodell. You've got the other people that were involved in it on the stage up there who were, you know, but you didn't have Lynn Jessup and you didn't have Sheldon Adelson. So, what other comments do we have here? We've got, Patrick and Blackman says, at the end of the day, Mark Davis looked bad at having to crawl back to Oakland. That's the way it's starting to look here. Hey, Eric Bradley, because I really, really see that as a distinctly, as a possibility that the Raiders will have to turn around and say, you know what, Oakland's not so bad after all. And Bernard says, what other team would you want? Laugh out loud. Steve Macy says, hey, nice to have you back, Bernard, by the way. Steve Macy says, make it a 45 to 50,000 seat max. And in the meantime, make money off concerts and special events. And Raider Flea, how are you doing? Nice to have you. Nice to have you here as well. And, so now on the A's baseball front, we've got something else I thought was really, quite interesting. At the morning Community and Economic Development Agency meeting with the city of Oakland Oakland's District 2 Councilmember Bill Guillen unveiled a special overlay zone proposal for the area proposed around the ballpark at Laney College, okay? And the idea basically is, well, first of all, Bell is certain that the Peralta Community College Board is going to approve the A's deal and everything's going to move forward. Now, which means he's afraid that there's going to be rampant land speculation and a lot of demolition and construction of new buildings, or at least attempts to do so. So in order to make that not happen, he proposed this overlay zone, which basically says, okay, you've got to go jump through a lot of hoops if you want to demolish anything. And but what it does is this: it sets up a situation for what is called adaptive reuse planning. What does that mean? It means adaptive reuse is a term that gave rise in the early 80s as part of the Reagan tax plan to encourage investment in the inner cities. If you were able to find older buildings, and in Oakland in particular, we had a ton of Art Deco buildings, you could gain a substantial tax credit to develop those buildings. I have a friend to this day who really earned his early development chops becoming an adaptive reuse specialist, but I digress. The situation that Abell's setting up will force speculators, developers, would-be developers, to either buy or team up with existing owners and simply upgrade the buildings in their place. The zoning that he proposes does absolutely nothing to stop any kind of upping of living price in any structure around there. Nothing. And so you would say, why do it? Well, the planning department came up with it. There was this, I call it inside City Hall thing, which a lot of the times is sort of divorced from, in Oakland, divorced from what's happening out in the outside. And all of a sudden, voila, you've got this C5 interim zone that's being proposed, which was introduced at the Community Economic Development Agency today, and I believe is going to hit the Oakland City Council in, if I'm not mistaken, 2 weeks. I'll double check that. So you would say, okay, is that good news or bad news? Well, it's good news if you want some barometer to determine if the A's deal is really going to happen. And I will say this: Dave Cavall has proven himself to be a master developer in the Bay Area context, in the Oakland context. If you tell me as a Raider person that, hey, you can't get anything done in Oakland, you know what my response is? Dave Cavall, the president of the Oakland A's. The president of the Oakland A's did, in a very short amount of time, what the Raiders have never done. And so it calls to question what is really going on with the Raiders that they couldn't get the deal done in Oakland. And I'll tell you what it is. The Raiders, in terms of its organizational structure, is such that they always want somebody else to do something for them, rather than having the internal staff to do it for themselves and the expertise to do it for themselves. That's why. And that's a cold, hard fact, buttressed by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell himself, who said last year, we're not talking about the NFL, we're not developers. But it's a confusing comment to make, because on the one hand, the commissioner says we're not developers, but then on the other hand, they want the land in Oakland to develop on it, right? And they want control of stadium land to develop on that land, which makes you what? A developer. It's that kind of almost schizophrenic ideology that drives anyone who really understands development and development economics nuts, like me. It's like, what are you doing? How are you talking about? Huh? Come on. So, really, all right? Now, as Jay from the P says, Mark don't want to be in Oakland. Hey, he should be honest about it. I mean, and just have said that back in 2011, look, we're just going to move, period, all right? And that's it. But they didn't do that. And then turn around and say, hey, we couldn't get anything done in Oakland. Not true. You can get something done in Oakland. I said this last night. I'll say it again. Just be honest. Just be honest. Because they may very well be the Raiders in a position where they have to build in Oakland. That's what it's looking like. All right? It's really what it's looking like. And with this Las Vegas Sands announcement today, oh boy. So Joe Bless says, once they move, boycott the NFL. Well, if they move. I'm still holding out the ifs. Remember, we got the GOP tax plan in, what, Thursday? So, hey, Lonely on Top, how you doing? Lopez, how are you? Oakland or nothing. Big April says, what will happen to Laney College with all this happening? Well, Laney College, essentially, the ball fields that exist now will be the home of the new stadium. And that's what will happen. And so, we've got, Crawford says, this is grounds for an antitrust lawsuit if one is filed. If one is filed. If one is filed. If one is filed. Corey Brown, how are you? He says, looking for handouts. You might have a point there, Mr. Brown. Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. And keep in mind, I want to remind every one of you that's paying attention to this right now, come closer. Let me tell you something, okay? There's no Raider bond issued in Las Vegas right now, okay? Clark County has not voted to do so. So anyone who tells you that the bond will be grandfathered, what you should say to them is these words: you don't know what you are talking about. 8 words. You don't know what you're talking about. And the reason they don't know what they're talking about is this. Because they're going to say, well, the Nevada took the vote on 2016. Well, specifically, it was October 16th of 2000. Well, actually, October 14th of 2016, and they signed it into law on the 16th. But it's another story. But my point is that what was done was the Nevada legislature approved a plan that called for Clark County to float a series of bonds that would give a proceed, which would give an upfront check of $750 million, and then you have the back end debt service that's paid over a 30-year period, okay? And that plan was approved by the legislature. Then on November 17th of 2016, Clark County's Board of Commissioners approved the hotel tax. But the bond, its structure, the proceeds, has not been designed or approved by Clark County to this point. So when the GOP tax bill passes, guess what comes into its wake, into its wash? You got it. Whatever act Clark County takes or desires to take would be rendered illegal because they haven't done it. I want people to understand that because a number of you have either emailed or contacted me or messaged me or asked me on Facebook about this idea that the bonds would be grandfathered, and I keep saying no. Now, good Senator Dean Heller of Nevada has said that he was going to try to ask, he was not going to try, he's going to ask for an exemption. However, I haven't seen a formal request from Senator Heller that he's going to do that. But let's think about it for a second. I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. If Heller asks for an exemption for the Las Vegas situation, then why not give one for, think about this, Washington, D.C. Why the Redskins want a new stadium, okay, even though Governor McAuliffe, who's now turned out, he's replaced by another Democrat, said that he wanted it done without taxpayer dollars. The Redskins balked, and Bruce Allen is a lover of the user of public money, saying to anybody who would listen, including me, Zinni, you know that there's never been a stadium developed without public money in history. Well, but the whole point is, okay, Bruce and I had that exchange, all right? But because I was trying to explain to him that you can actually get a deal done without public dollars. The economics do work out if you allow them to work. But guess what? The NFL is going to be forced to deal with those economics given the way this tax bill is going. At first, I thought the House version of the tax bill that Trump wants passed was doomed, was in trouble because they're going to add this portion of it regarding health care. And I'm sorry, nobody wants to take health care and health insurance away. So when they announced that, I thought, well, you know what? That, if there's anything that could doom the House tax bill, it's that. But the House tax bill doesn't have it. It's the Senate version, which isn't favored by a number of people to begin with. It's the Senate version that has it. All right? So it's the Senate version. The House version doesn't have it. But nobody wants to mess with anyone's health care at the end of the day. If you want to increase the possibility that your tax bill isn't going to pass, you start screwing with people's health care again. Forget it. Nobody wants to go into election doing that. So, Restricted Area says, hello from France, hello. Steve Macy says, but won't Las Vegas say that they already started the process so they shouldn't have to pay the tax? No, because they haven't started the process. That's not, all right, the process, you start the bond process when you vote to issue the bond. There's been no vote taken to issue a bond. And when that happens, and I want this to be understood crystal clear, okay? When you issue a bond, you have a bond underwriter, Goldman Sachs, Piper Jaffray, so on, that handles the bonds. Right now, it's not clear who's going to handle those bonds. Is it going to be Goldman Sachs? We don't know. I don't know. Is it going to be Ellie McCabe at Bank of America? They're already handling the $850 million loan. Can they take the $850 million loan and do the $750 million? Is that an FDIC allowed combination of transactions? Would that total of monies, about $1.5 billion, run up against the limits for in annual limits for what a bank can issue with respect to a category? There are those, there are those problems, okay? But the simple fact of the matter is that underwriter has not been identified. And not only that, you would say, why, Zinni? Well, think for a moment. Do you know what the actual guaranteed maximum price of the stadium is? No. So remember the process here. Someone's talking about the process. First of all, you can't have that. There's nothing that's taken place. Someone says we already started the process. And nothing has taken place that ignites the bond process. First of all, the Raiders still have the land. They haven't turned it over yet. They're not going to turn over this week. GOP tax bill passes. Okay. Sorry. Now, in total, the tax bill, by the time all is said and done, it probably will take us toward the end of the year. I would be surprised if things work that fast in Washington. I expect the first version of the bill to be passed, the House version. You got the Senate version, and you've got the process of it going back to committee and being fixed and everything, okay? So it's not going to be it's not all going to be done this week, but we do have Thanksgiving next week. Next week. What'll happen, I think, with the Senate version is if they want this to get passed, they'll stop screwing with healthcare. Because I'll tell you, what they're talking about removing is the individual mandate. That is, what the individual mandate is you have to purchase health insurance. If you don't, you pay a tax, okay? Now, me personally, I don't need that kind of sword of Damocles over my head to purchase health insurance. I just like the fact that the Affordable Care Act made my health insurance a lot cheaper. Even with the premium increases under Obamacare, I'm still paying 50% less than without Obamacare. See my point? All right. So, to get back to your comments. Big Apple says people with business sense are running from this Vegas deal. People in Vegas don't want this Vegas deal. Rube Simon says moderate GOP will fight it. And Rob, I agree with you regarding the healthcare issue, but but I will say this: the whole matter of that NFL and sports stadium bond block, that has bipartisan support. So that's not coming out. It's going to take an elephant to yank that thing out of there. There are too many people on both sides of the aisle who want it for different reasons. I said that last night. So Raider Flea says, Zinni, if Oakland builds or does a renovation of the Coliseum, do you see a team moving to Oakland? Yeah. But the Raiders have to give up that property first, okay? They have to give up not the property, but the rights. And the Raiders haven't done that. See, everyone forgets, just because the NFL has approved the idea of the Raiders moving to Las Vegas doesn't mean that the Raiders have given up their rights in Oakland, because they haven't. The Raiders will do what they've done in the LA case. They're going to hold on to those rights in case something goes wrong. I would hope they're not stupid, because that's what I would do if I were in their position. Barry Lee says, hey, Zinni, I haven't been here. Welcome back. Sorry you've been ill. Nice to have you back. And Jacob P says, could you ever see the rights being given up? Oh, the rights are given up only if somebody wants to fill the area. Other than that, no. Jacob P. You have to have somebody else that wants to go there, Oakland, in order for that to be a situation. So, hey, John Marks, nice to have you here as well. And, hey, Barry Lee, as long as you're here, if you please tweet this out as hashtag Oakland. Thank you. And as Lonely on Top says, they shouldn't give up their rights. And we say Barry Strong. And Barry Lee, I'm glad that you're with us and hanging in there. James McClendon says, hello, Zinster. What was the Las Vegas Sands announcement? You know, I'm going to go back and get that full article for you and read it. And because it comes from Sheldon, Mr. Adelson's publication. And, excuse me, I stand corrected. I said Mr. Adelson's publication. Hold on a second. It wasn't Mr. Or was it? Wait a minute. It was. Let me go back here. And what happened was that, you know how you have this, there's always this changing scene on the news in the front, okay? And that's what, all of a sudden they took it away. That's interesting. Hold on a second. I've got to see who broke that story. I thought it was the Review Journal, but I don't see it on the front page there. Maybe it was the Nevada Independent. It was. I stand corrected. It was the Nevada Independent. Initial documents submitted to county for proposed music venue involving Las Vegas Sands and Madison Square Garden. And that comes from the Nevada Independent. And it reads, an entertainment project that involves Las Vegas Sands Corporation and Madison Square Garden appears to be moving forward, increasing the likelihood that another music venue will grace the Strip corridor. The two companies announced last year that they were creating a venue of the future capable of housing large touring concerts, specially designed residences, and full-blown productions and events. And the Nevada-based Camphor Kroll law firm submitted a pre-application project documents with Clark County October 20th, said Al Laird, the county's principal planner. The documents include a diagram showing a proposed 585,000 square foot music venue, which would sit on the southeast corner of Koval Lane and Sands Avenue, Sands owns the roughly 18-acre parcel of land, he says. The document submitted to the county didn't include a capacity estimate, but a news release issued by the companies last year indicated it would include 17,000 seats facing a stage. In addition, which is basically as large as T-Mobile Arena. But again, that would have two venues that, since they're not owned by the Las Vegas Stadium Authority or have a relationship with Raiders Stadco, would basically be taking events away from the Raider venue, or giving an event planner choices as to where they want it to go. And it says, in addition to superior acoustics, state-of-the-art technology will be utilized throughout the building, creating a venue of the future capable of delivering new and innovative experiences for both artists and fans. Company officials wrote in the May 2016 statement. And county planners and staff from other agencies have a conference scheduled with developers later this month to discuss it. And this is aside from the company's iconic namesake arena in New York City, Madison Square Garden is also defined a forum, an arena-sized venue in, LA, the Forum, right? So, and there's no mention of how this will impact the Raiders project, as opposed, it just mentions it, okay? And so it's Clark County Commissioner Steve Sisolak says he's met twice with officials from Madison Square Garden Company who have described it as a high-tech entertainment venue that will not be used for athletic events. As for whether the market can handle another sizable venue, Sisolak declined to speculate. If they think it can pencil, that's a business call. It creates more jobs. It brings more people here, so that's a good thing. So there you go. All right. There's that. That's the news. Then the other news is that, and this comes from Las Vegas Sands, is that the Raiders looking around Henderson for a training camp after making noise they're going to go to Reno, thereby spreading their wealth around the state of Nevada. Ain't happening. So, Jamal Mills, how are you? And Irish D says, no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. The concert venue would be for smaller concerts, too small for T-Mobile Las Vegas Stadium. Nope, that's not true. Irish, in fact, it would be actually larger than T-Mobile Arena, so not smaller. No, nice try, but no. Otis says, Barry is fighting 3 infections from bad teeth. I'm on heavy meds, making you sleepy. Hey, man, Barry. Wow, golly. Take care of yourself, man. Drink a ton of water. Restricted Area says, sport in the USA is only about money. It's sad. In Europe, clubs represent their town, and they are proud of it. Harry Dunn says, hey, Zinni, I was late. What's the A's Ballpark update? The update regarding the A's Ballpark has to do with the introduction at the Community and Economic Development Agency meeting at 1:30 today. I said it was this morning. It was 1:30 Pacific. Wherein a proposed by Oakland Councilman Ray Belgian and Oakland City Planning Department overlay temporary or interim zone, a C5 zone, will be proposed around the area, which at the center will hold what will be the A's new ballpark at Laney College. What this overlay zone does is it makes it extremely difficult to tear down anything in that zone and build something to replace it. But my point is that all such zoning does is create an opportunity for adaptive reuse of existing buildings, still changing the tenant base, making it more expensive, kicking people out. What's the solution? The solution should be, as I've said to Bell, is to use the California. It's a California's new infrastructure. I'm typing California's infrastructure investment law. California's new infrastructure investment law, and it has to do. It's a brand new law that was established and allows the use of tax increment financing. And I said it was in 2015 was established, actually 2014. But what it does is it allows the city council, okay, to pick, it's called Senate Bill S-628. I had said it was 328 to Bill on the phone. I have to correct that. It's Senate Bill 628. And what Senate Bill 628 does is allows the city council to say, in the A's context, hey, we're going to draw around the A's complex in the neighborhood an infrastructure investment zone. The law, Senate Bill 628, specifically allows for tax increment financing and for it and other incentives to go into the construction of low and moderate income housing. Yeah. So, among other things, bridges, roads, everything else, right? So, there's an opportunity to use Senate Bill 628 to build, in conjunction with this overlay zone, an infrastructure investment district to assure that you have affordable housing in the area. Because without that, and only with that zoning idea, you're not going to get affordable housing. You're still going to get pent-up demand. What you will get is an improved looking neighborhood because, hey, look, the economics will be poured into existing buildings, which is a great thing, okay? But if you put that infrastructure investment overlay, not overlay, the infrastructure investment district around that overlay zone, ding, that's the ticket. So that's what they ought to do, and that's what I'm saying the Oakland Council member Belgian District 2, he should do. So so that's what I was talking about. That's the latest, okay? So hey, moderators, you may fire at will, pun intended, regarding trolls. That's all. I'm not going to deal with it. That's it. We've got Harry Dunn says, somebody tweeted me about that A. Belgian said that Peralta leadership will transfer the lease and sell the land to the A's next month. Yes. And I say congratulations to Dave Cavall and the Oakland A's. It makes you want to cry. You know, Oakland deserves that. Oakland deserves it. It really does. And I just, I can't tell you how happy I am to see the city move forward in this way. I really am. I'm telling you, it's going to be a win for everybody. Everyone. It really is. And Jacob P says, yes, Zinni, please keep, well, whatever. Crawford says, let's see here. We've got, Big April says, Mark Davis said the Raiders are in Oakland until 2019. He lied through his teeth. We all know he's going to be here 2020 and longer. Yep. Like I say, hey, you know what? You can say all that stuff, but as Eric Young reminds us, Bugsy Siegel. Yep. Bugsy Siegel. That's right. David Compton, nice to have you here. And Lonely on Top asked the question, who is the mob gangster who thought up Las Vegas, and that's why Bugsy Siegel. Yeah. Has anyone ever seen that movie with Warren Beatty? Great movie if you haven't seen it. Check it out. It really is. Hey, by the way, folks, I say welcome to Zinni 62 Live. And for 12:31 in the morning, Wednesday. Now, November 15th. And Harry Dunn says, which should be the next domino to fall for the Las Vegas Stadium? Well, the GOP tax bill. Jacob P says, Lee Leandro Ball back in America. Yeah, how about that? You know? And I'll tell you what I think about that. Jacob P wants to know what I think. Thanks for asking. First of all, kudos to President Trump for coming to their aid and using his power with the presidency to represent 3 American college basketball players who got into trouble and did something they shouldn't have done. And as President Trump pointed out in his press gaggle on Air Force One, a gaggle is when you have a gaggle of press gathering around and talking that, hey, they could have gone to jail in a foreign country, China, for a long, long time. And you know, you don't want that to happen. It's it's almost like Midnight Express or something. That movie back from the 70s about the guy who caught smuggling drugs and wound up, you know, spending time in a Turkish prison and all the atrocities that happened to him and all that stuff, and he escaped, right? So you know, the little Angel Ball was actually looking at that for a time, okay? So, but John Mark says Trump is the man. Right now, you got to give, hey, look, criticize Trump for a lot of things, but you got to give him credit for going to bat for the UCLA basketball players, and therein lay the seeds of a UCLA basketball joke. I know it's going to be formed, but who better to tell the joke, or at least to think of it, than an old blue from Cal, from UC Berkeley? Me, okay? Yeah, UCLA, your basketball players go to China and steal things. There's a punchline in there. I'm trying to work it out, okay? Whatever. Joseph Bisman says, yeah, but the here Republicans try to sneak and repeal the individual mandate in the crappy tax bill. I don't give them credit for anything. Richard Ike says, I think the media is lazy. They don't want to do the legwork and digging and take press releases and tweets as the gospel. Yep. And Mike says, when Congress passes this tax bill on Thursday, will this spell the end of the Raiders Vegas nightmare? It will be the beginning of the end. And because, and I know the NFL is working overtime to try to, you know, stop that provision, but the trouble is, it's the NFL, and how can you, at a time when you have a number of people who are working several jobs, like you've got, you know, a Lyft job over here, a restaurant job over there, and so on, how can you tell those folks that it's okay to give, and take the Nevada case, $750 million to a group of billionaires when you have an education system that's financially in the tank over there, an enormous homeless problem, and a severe problem of not just underemployment, but a lack of a minimum wage. Do you realize that an entry-level job on the Strip pays less than poverty level? You realize that? I'm going to repeat that. An entry-level job on the Las Vegas Strip pays less than poverty level by $492 a year. All right? That's how bad things are there in terms of entry-level jobs. That's how bad it is. Okay? So you've got what it means, what it translates to is waitresses and waiters making crap wages, and historically in Las Vegas, they relied on tips. But look, tip culture has all but gone away. It's really sad. My mom raised me to tip. I tip all the time. And it never ceases to amaze me how many people in the Las Vegas situation are delighted and surprised that I give them a tip. That's sad. That wasn't always the case either. I'm talking about over the years that I've covered the Consumer Electronics Show by CES Las Vegas. That's sad. And yeah, I always plan a tip. Always. Talking about the door person at the hotel that is kind enough to whistle down a ride share person to flag them over or open a cab for you, because people still do use cabs in Las Vegas. That kind of thing. Or just the waitress, right? And everyone gets tipped in the bars and restaurants still. But even then, the tips are less. So it's not a great situation over there. It really isn't. Idrilla says, Stephen Ross, owner of the Dolphins, was the only no vote for the Vegas movie. Yep. I don't know what that point is, but Eric Bradley says, a tip, don't bet on a 3-horse. Ha! John Mark says, Vegas is just plain bad. Poor old Tease, haven't seen it in a while. Says, Little Angel and others took our Constitution for granted, and they will realize how great our country is now. I hope so. You know, I hope so. I hope that they were scared straight from that. And I would guess that they were. Harry Dunn says, any update on the pending lawsuit from Forever Oakland? It's dormant. You know, I think there's no other way to put it than that. In some people are not going to like that I'm about to say this, but I think it has to be said that my friends put, and they are my friends, they put too much of their emphasis on the idea that they had what I asserted they were not going to get, and that's the JPA's backing. And I said from day one, you know, if you're going to do this, you need to go it alone, because if there is a situation where the Raiders can stay, why would you want to sue someone you're negotiating with? And Oakland District 3 council member, my council member, and Lynette Gibson McElhaney said precisely that on the day that October 20th day that they took the vote. And I wasn't surprised. She didn't say that on the camera. It was off camera. But, you know, why would they do that? Why would anyone do that? It didn't make any sense at all. And so there was this, well, we've got another thing planned and everything else. But look, I really feel sorry, bad for, and just plain hurt for Ray Bobbitt, who spent quite a bit of his own money on this. And you know, I told someone this. I said, you know what? It seems like they're trying to string Ray along with the idea that he's going to run out of money sooner or later because he only has so much, right? That's bad. I mean, when you go into something like this, it's one thing, and see, that's the other thing, is the group was resting on the idea that we've got the best lawyers. I said, you know what? That's not enough. It's not enough to have the best lawyers, because even then, your best lawyers are not only commanding dollars, but they're taking an approach that is not going to get you what you want at the end of the day. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Anybody can file a lawsuit. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. Thrown out of court? Maybe. Look at St. Louis file one, okay? But you just have to do it. And it's not a matter of the... oh, and then something else, too. When, to me, the real problem was introduced in public discussion about the suit when, I believe it was McElhaney said, well, your own attorneys are telling us that, hey, it's going to be a loss for us. So think about that. They've got, the situation is Forever Oakland's attorneys, and that's Jim Quinn and Eric Hofstad, are telling the city and the county, you know what, this is going to cost you a huge amount of money. And so basically they were placed in the position of giving the city and the county an out. And guess what? They took it. Okay? They took it. Now, you know, people have said to me, yeah, behind the scenes, you don't understand, Zenny, this going on and that going on. But look, all people see in any case are the cosmetics of a situation. And the cosmetics of a situation command how a person determines what's happened on a policy level. And the cosmetics of this, the only way you judge it is by what people have said. And unless you have more information. And in this, we don't have a lot of, we're not privy to a lot of private emails. There was a lot of keeping people out, okay? So what we know is that the city and county says, hey, that Forever Oakland's attorneys gave them the information. So basically, it's, you know, they basically said, okay, well, we'll use that. Thank you. No. All right. Does that mean they don't have a case? No. There's a case to be had. That case is sitting there. It's still there. It's still there. Okay? It is still there. But that case aside, the Raiders have created enough negative relationships and have done this in a way that's really so hasty that there's always some sort of domino that's going to fall in this. That's the problem. It's not clean. It doesn't matter, again, if it's the stadium tax that's too small, or the issue I just mentioned, or something else. I'm going to say this because I've said it before. The Oakland Raiders deserve a new stadium. And I will say it again. The Oakland Raiders deserve a new stadium. But they cannot be so desirous of a new stadium that they make the mistakes that they've made. And they are legion. Legion. All right. So, okay, good night, Barry Lee. Good night, I'll see you. And Lonely on Top says, Jack the Snake is a Raider fan watching his documentary. He's rocking a Raider coat. And Irish Indy says he has friends who work front desk as well as valet, and they are not hurting for tips. But Irish Indy, your comment makes no sense. All you have to do is look at the Bureau of Labor statistics, income numbers for Las Vegas and the zip code areas around the Strip, and check for yourself, and then compare it year to year. In other words, what I'm saying is, forget, you know, the anecdotal comparison, all right? And look at the BLS statistics. And don't tell me they don't track them, because if you tell me they don't track them, I'm going to tell you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Just saying, all right? The income information is there, tips, wages, everything. It's all there. BLS.gov, go there, do some digging, make a spreadsheet, make a blog, okay? Spell out the spreadsheet, right? Put the numbers down and look for yourself. Do your homework. Don't give me all this crap. Welcome to the Zinster world. Because if you don't do that, sometimes you get booted. You see, the people here are the core, they're thinkers. They're critical thinkers. They do homework, they ask questions, they call me, ask questions, they think through things. That's why I love this group. All right, that's what we do. We don't just say stuff. All right. Now, Otis says, yeah, they probably should have built downtown Oakland. Even though I'm a Niners fan, I agree with Rob. The Raiders probably should have shared Levi's with the Niners. That would have been a disaster for the Raiders, and Mark Davis didn't want. Mark Davis didn't want that. And Irish Indy says, how do they track them if the employees don't report? Well, that's not true. That's an assumption you're making. But it's because if you ever filled out an IRS tax report, you do put your wages, your tips down there, all right? So my point is, the bottom line is that, and you can't escape the fact that the entry-level wage on the Strip is below poverty. That's not true in Oakland, in the Bay Area, okay? So forget your anecdote. Numbers, sheer numbers, what lots of people do. Form your market study. Do your homework. Don't give me this conversation as a proxy for not wanting to do the homework on you, because I've done it. I've done it. You can go to Zenny62.com, type Las Vegas Strip wages, because I did a whole blog post on that, I think 2 years ago. So I've done it, okay? All right, so, Crawford says the Niners should have stayed at the Candlestick Point area and built. Yep, John Mark says San Francisco blew it with the Niners leaving. Yes, oh my goodness. Donald Richardson says, yeah, Otis says, I agree, I live near Candlestick, and it's weird that Candlestick is gone. Candlestick was more of a home field for the Niners than Levi, and has been so far. Levi has been so far. Eric Young says, and we still don't trust the lies of mainstream media as gospel truth, and you shouldn't. Hey, the mainstream media got us into, what, the Gulf War, the Iraq War. I mean, oh boy. Rob Iman says Gavin Newsom played hardball with the Niners. He played hardball, and you know what? Gavin's a friend of mine. I'm not saying like we're buddy-buddy. Well, we are good. We are friends. Gavin's a friend of mine. Jed York's a friend of mine. I am really, really, really to this day sorry they couldn't have worked out a deal that resulted in the Niners being in San Francisco. All right? So, Crawford says, Levi's is like a scary movie. City blew it and team blew it. Corey Brown says, Polar Tees, how are you? He says, yeah, but do you have to put the tips that were in Give My Cash on your IRS tax forms? Yeah, you should. Okay? It's a good idea to not hide the money you make, okay? It's called, what you're talking about is tax evasion, all right? You don't want to be caught doing that. You don't want to do that sort of thing. Just saying. Corey Brown says Vegas should have kidnapped the 49ers instead of the Raiders. Both logos are more fitting of Vegas. Oh, the Niners logo is more fitting of Vegas, he says. We've got Sheldon Ponder. How are you? Sheldon Ponder says, men lie, women lie, numbers never lie. Yeah. And Crawford says the Niners should have stayed in Candlestick Point area and built their own. And that's where you guys are talking about that. Sheldon Ponder says, welcome to the Zinster world. I love it. Yeah. I mean, that's how we are here, you know? I mean, this is an intellectually tough place to be. You can't just come here and say shit. Okay? You gotta know how to do your research. All right? I mean, I love it. I've got, Boss will call me on something, or John Marks, or anybody else. This is great. That's the way it should be. Because it means you're doing the homework. It means you're not just saying stuff. It's like, hey, look, I found this data. And this is what I figured out. Or I found this. This is what I figured out. That's the way you do it. Okay? You use the internet for what it was meant to be used for, okay? And by the way, folks, I'm going to stop at 1:10 tonight. And the reason is that I have to wake up. I want to wake up early. And I have to wake up early and try to get back rest balance. And I need to take care of some things for my mom. And then, well, all that. Okay, so the bottom line is it's 12:49 and 1:10. I'm going to stop tonight, and then I'll be back later. Be back tomorrow. Eric Young says, David Bruce publicly called out Caltrans for not taking down Candlestick Park. Blaster says, Raiders. Yeah, well, I guess they don't listen to him. Harry Dunn says, honestly, I think Oakland would choose Amazon headquarters site over Raiders Stadium and Coliseum. Nope, not true. Because you could have the stadium and Amazon at the same time. There's, under the Coliseum City room, there's enough room for both. The city of Oakland thinks. Now, the NFL thinks different. The NFL thinks, hey, look, we want the land for the Raiders, period. But I'll say this, all right? What the NFL needs to understand, and I believe drop the ball on, is that in order to do, and this is why the league has to really change its economic model. It's so intent on having public money, right, that it will not even look at, and that's not true. That's not fair to the league. Some team owners will not entertain a fully private option. Fully private option calls for mixed-use development. Then there's Stan Kroenke, who has a fully private option. Stan Kroenke's facility is not going to be affected by the GOP tax bill. Okay? So, Stan Kroenke has established the model for the NFL's stadium financing future with what he's doing in Inglewood. Okay? He's established that model right there. L. Welch says, hey, the groundbreaking was a joke. If you Google the groundbreaking of any of the recent stadiums, it's night and day. Thank you. I told everybody, you know. Rob Iman says, I hope Bart helps to boost attendance at Levi's next year. Is Bart going up down that far? Jacob P. says, is there any scenario where you see the NFL ultimately rejecting the Vegas project? Well, no, it's not the NFL rejecting it. The NFL's given the Raiders the right to go for it. It's the Raiders that would have to reject it. And Raiders would already have a place in Oakland. There's nothing that says, hey, you got to get out. Okay? So that's not, so I'm encouraging you not to think of it that way. The NFL's given, it's like if I say to you, hey, you have a home here, son, but go to these different colleges and try to work out, see which one gets you the best scholarship deal, right? And if you can't get the best scholarship deal and find the best place to live at these colleges around the country, you got your home right here, stay right home, right? It's like that. That's the situation. Think of it that way. So, Crawford says the tax bill forced the owner's hand to have no choice but to go private and kill the Clark County bond issue in the process. Corey Brown says, is there any legal fallout for the Raiders if they back out of this Vegas thing? Not now. No, there isn't. Because, look, if the GOP tax bill passes, let's say that the Raiders got so far as to sign the non-relocation agreement, which I don't think that they would sign it so hastily. But let's just say they signed it, and then we have the passage of the tax bill, and then more visits to committee, and then a final reading of the passage, say by, I think it's going to go beyond Thanksgiving. Let's say it's by the end of the year, which, not too far away, right? And let's say the Raiders, which they're not going to do that, but let's just say for hypothetical. A hypothetical I'm not comfortable making because I know it's not the way the process works. And somebody said, well, Zenny said, no. I'm just saying that if the Raiders gotten themselves to a point where they started signing contracts like that and the tax bill passed, because those contracts are basically directly and indirectly based on a bond issue that can't be floated, that's illegal, it would render the Raiders' obligations null. They wouldn't have to do them. Because, for example, why? Think about it. The Raiders would have to turn over the land to, right now they have to turn over the land to Las Vegas Stadium Authority to float a bond that comes from Clark County. But the tax law, the way it's written right now, renders that illegal, which would effectively render the Raiders' land transfer as not necessary to do. Or they could give it to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, would be stuck with it, but they couldn't float a bond, okay? So if they can't float a bond, the whole transaction was meaningless, all right? So the Raiders would be rendered unable to do what it was they originally set out to do. And not only that, it would take away, the GOP tax bill would take away the raison d'etre of the Raiders' relocation. What is raison d'etre? That's a French term meaning reason for being. The spirit of the being. The raison d'etre, the reason for being. Was that $750 million? It's always said, that's what we want. Remember Mark Davis said, hey, look, if it's less than $750 million, I'm going to walk. Well, here we are. But the GOP tax bill can take care of that. All right. So, Pedro Galaro says, since the A's are moving out of the Coliseum site, does them moving give the Raiders a bigger stadium budget if they stay? It gives them more land to play with, and it gives them, you could think of it as a bigger potential revenue pull from mixed-use development on that site, which under the Fortress plan, which I thought the Fortress plan was genius for the Raiders, because it allowed the Raiders to play a role in collecting development monies from buildings that were to be built around the stadium. That was really cool. That was really cool. And I'll bet you credits to Navy means the Raiders didn't sit down and calculate that out. Tisk. So, they should have. It's not a hard calculation. I did it. So, Big April says, I keep saying this, Vegas will be worse than LA. At least LA supported them for some time. Vegas will support them for half a season. If they do move, they will be back within 3 years. Rob Iman says, a BART extending to Bay next year. 32 Assassin, how are you? I've been seeing sometimes. 32 Assassin says, tailgating is such a joy at Levi's. Joseph Benjamin says, you think so, John? I hope not. John Mark says, I'm sorry, Otis B, for acting, so well, that's another story. So Eric Young says, so if the bill passes, the Las Vegas deal is dead. The Las Vegas deal is dead. They cannot do, Stephen Hill doesn't like me saying this, but look, you can't do it. You cannot float a general obligation bond. And the money for a private bond would have to come from the stadium itself, and it doesn't throw off that kind of cash. It just doesn't. Okay? It ain't there. And the hotel tax? Well, hey, look, that hotel tax, that rate, isn't throwing off enough money for the total bond issue itself. So, I mean, it's hilarious. You already have a shortfall in the revenue bits being brought in, all right? And that's not going to get any better, and people are projecting these, increases in room rates, right? But you've got to make sure that when you have a downturn, you can't lean back on Clark County. You have to dig it from the stadium itself. And here's the problem for the Raiders. The stadium exists not in connection with the Raiders' own organization. What do I mean? I mean that because the Raiders are Stadco and they are operating the stadium in the post-GOP tax bill case entirely without Clark County as a backdrop, once the hotel tax money is used, because they would still be able to get that, okay? They would be able to get that. But the deficits would have to come from the stadium. And if the stadium is already at operating deficit itself, okay, then that impacts the ability of the stadium to cover the Bank of America loan. So you've got a problem. You got a huge problem. Yep. Oh, and God forbid an economic downturn. And God forbid, the drop in casual trips to Vegas that's already being projected by some in the wake of 1 October. So no, I mean, oh, and then on top of all that, here's the other kicker. If you do that private bond issue, the debt, the interest rate is double in total, which means what? It means the debt service is more. How much more? You're looking at a debt service somewhere between, I would say, $7 to $9 million a year, something like that. It's a lot of money because the interest rate. So you have the basic bond at $750 million, right? But then the interest rate makes the total bond more expensive, and therefore makes it a certainty that the bond is going to outstrip the stream of money from the hotel tax, okay, and then dig into the stadium revenue, creating sort of a cannibalization situation. Let me take the sort of out of my sentence. Creating a cannibalization situation. Be cannibalizing themselves. That's exactly what you're looking at. So, Otis says, I've only been Levi's once so far, and that was for Foster Farms. That was my first time at Levi's. It was cool, but I still miss Candlestick. And Irish says, by 2019, 2020, Vegas might have to start looking into a second airport to handle the rise in its visitors. That actually has been disproven. But Otis B says, hope to make it. I mean, I like your enthusiasm, but I think that it's a good idea to really get used to looking at economic information, just so you're not disappointed. All right. But a second airport, nah. I will say this though, that the perfect scenario in Las Vegas should be that the casinos pay for this thing. That's not happening. And if they're not doing it, it's because they can't afford it. Look, Las Vegas Sands' own board took a vote not to put money, organizational money, into the Raiders deal when Adelson was involved. What does that tell you? And if Las Vegas Sands, which arguably is the richest of the casinos, isn't going to do it, then you can bet MGM's not going to do it, let alone anyone else. So, hey, So 32 Assassins. I'm curious as to how much Mark missed that. 32 Assassins. And I'm curious as to how much Mark is on the hook for the resources invested in Vegas so far, land, etc., and what real estate he bought near Carson and in San Antonio. He doesn't have any real estate in Carson. The Carson deal was owned by the city of Carson. That wasn't the Raiders' ownership. San Antonio, I don't know the answer to that question. But then, of course, you have to remember something. If the GOP tax bill is passed, it renders San Antonio as a dead duck too. Okay? Not just Las Vegas. And that's why Dean Heller asking for an exemption for Las Vegas is ridiculous because, hey, look, the Washington Redskins want a new stadium. They're going to want an exemption too. Okay? So this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay? So, Rob Iman says, I got subbed. Wait a minute. 32 Sides says, seems like he's bluffing with a bad hand. Yes. And I would say that's quite accurate. I would say it's quite accurate. Paul T says, what are the chances of the GOP tax plan passing? I'll give it a 70%. In some form. Rob Iman says, as much as I liked Harbaugh, he has a tendency to wear on players. And yeah, and people. Jordan Yancey says, I think he bought a parking lot in Carson. Yeah, but the whole point is that even in Carson, that was still a bond issue that was floated by whatever the county is that has jurisdiction of Carson over there. So it still falls under the clause and within the clutches of the GOP tax plan. Pretty extensive, huh? And Radio Kugo says, hi Zenny, when do you predict the Raiders? I don't like to predict. Not being able to cover the unraveling stadium deal in Vegas. They seem to be covering up the issues. I don't like to predict. I like to give, as I said last night, pointed checklists to determine where we are, okay? Because I will say this. I'll be really honest. It would be cool to see them. It would be cool to see them succeed, okay? But in order for them to succeed, a number of events have to happen that have not happened yet. It's not just the 13 agreements that need to be completed and signed. It's the too small stadium tax. It's the GOP tax bill that's standing in the way right now. It's the cost to prep the land and the financing. It's what the guaranteed maximum price is going to be, okay? We don't know that. They don't have any financing right now. It's not there, okay? So you're saying what has to fall in place. I've given you the outline of things they don't have. So if they can't get those, they can't do that. And the other thing that they don't have is this. They don't have a much needed $1 billion in sponsorship revenue. That's not there either. They haven't announced a gigantic naming rights agreement. That's not there either. Okay? So as Mark Davis said last night, and I'm saying now for the third time, when he was being congratulated, he says, oh, what are you congratulating me for? We haven't done anything yet. So it's this checklist of things that have to do it. It's not a matter of predicting. It's a matter of explaining to you how difficult they are and where the Raiders are not. And the reason why I say it like that is because I'm very sensitive to the idea that someone would say, you are, quote, just saying, Zenny, unquote. No, I'm not. If someone looks at the problems I'm pointing to, and then you ask the question, have they found solutions? I'm only pointing out the problems. An intelligent observer says, hey, he's just pointing out the problems. If the Raiders haven't found a solution, that's not Zenny's fault. And hey, look, I have given them the roadmap in the Oakland case. And I said in 2016 that the stadium tax was too small, and they told me that I was wrong. They said this year that I was wrong about the erosion, the fact the stadium tax wasn't bringing enough money. Oh, that's okay, because we're banking this, and we're going to have $50 million to put in the deal, and that's going to reduce it to $700 million. That's only a 6.6% reduction in monthly debt service if you're able to even get that much money of it up, right? Okay, but they're not there. They're not there at all. And then you've got the amount of money they have to spend for parking. It's $200 million, and then you've got the off-site transportation infrastructure costs. They have to pay by law. That's $450 million. Okay, so I mean, come on. Whew. I mean, they have $800 million in costs in Vegas that they don't have to spend in Oakland. Talking about the Raiders, that includes the that is a conservative estimate. That includes the $370 million relocation fee. But you could up that to over $1 billion in terms of total costs they would have to be responsible for. Why do that? Ugh. So, Eric Young says, I hope you'll mention your hotel and stadium design again. Yeah, one day when it's appropriate to do so, I will. John Mark says, hey, Manny, top of the evening to you. John Mark says, Candlestick was my second favorite place next to the Coliseum. I like Candlestick. Paul Q says, the president is here. Where? Rob Ivan says, all will end up a Bronco. John Mark says, Donald J. Trump passed the bill, talking about the GOP tax bill. And David Compton says, good night, Mr. Z. Catch you next time. Keep up the good work. You the man. Yeah, I am, because I am at that point. Thank you for everything that you do. Where's Rick Rice tonight? Didn't see him. Or did I? But it's 1:09, and I did say I was going to go to bed, and I'm going to. And I will see you all tonight. What am I saying? Yeah, it is. See you tonight. Wednesday night. You know, Wednesday night. I bought my mom Google Home. Fun stuff. She's like, I don't need this, but then she thinks it's cool. Remember, I end this as I started it. Pocket juice. Pocket juice. Pocket juice. Highly recommend pocket juice. All right. Good night, everybody. Jojo says, Zenny, who gets the land if the deal fails? Right now, the Raiders own it. So that depends on when they turn it over to Las Vegas Stadium Authority, which could then be in a position to just resell it. And I don't think the Raiders want to dump the land too. So anyway, good night, everybody. I'll see you all later, all right? I'll see you all later, all right? See ya. Good night, everybody. Good night. See you guys later. All right, take care. See ya. See ya. Good night, everybody. I'll see ya.